Hey, most franchisees never learn how to actually sell, and no one's teaching them now. So they start up and they just wing it. Today, we're going to dig into those types of unit level sales skills that every owner needs, but most brands are just not training.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profits Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hey, welcome back to Franchise Pitfalls and Profits. This is another episode in what I'm calling the Hidden Gaps series, where I am unpacking the real reasons franchisee performance gets stuck and then the overall franchisor starts to plateau. And it is not the surface level metrics that most people are looking at. So in the first episode, we went over the 5 hidden gaps, what they are. And then I started to dig into very specifically what those 5 were. The first one we talked about was the unit economics, what I call the blind spot, how franchisors often miss the real cost to ramp up and sustain profitable units. And then we addressed the leadership gaps inside what I call the franchisee's 4 walls, how weak team leadership quietly erodes performance of the franchisee, and then obviously of the franchisor's royalty, and on and on and on. So the third one we're going to talk about, which is today, we're talking about something even more fundamental than that. We're talking about sales skills or the lack of them. Because here's the truth. Most franchisees have never actually learned to sell. Yet revenue growth at the unit level starts there. And whether franchise owners like to sell or not, the reality is the owner of a company is the spokesperson. They're the megaphone. They're the mouthpiece for their local business. So let's get into it. What I'm really talking about. So to start, what I see the problem as sales skills and capabilities are assumed and not taught. In most franchise systems, training is focused on operations. How do we deliver the service? How do we make the products? Following the process, following the system. Using the technology, the tech stack that the franchisor has developed, maybe managing inventory, how to open the doors, how to get the whole business off the ground. What's not trained, or at least not in any depth, is how to sell the business in the community, how to promote the business in the community, how to sell the actual services or products that the unit that the franchise actually sells or services. What's not talked about is how the franchisee should have confident conversations with the marketplace, specifically even with the prospects for their business. And there's very little focus on or real work on how to turn an inquiry and interest in the services of the franchise, how to turn that into a transaction. So there's also what's missing in a lot of cases is how to follow up. This is a big gap that we've uncovered with some of our franchise, with some of our partner clients and their franchisees. How many sales are made on the first call? It's just a critical skill set to be able to follow up, particularly with call centers now that franchisors deliver so much digital marketing, so much SEO, where leads are just coming in through the website. Follow up is just critical. And yet nobody talks about that. Nobody teaches that. how to build a local referral network, how to ask for the sale without coming across like you're pushing. And it's very awkward for most people to say, well, would you like me to sign you up? Would you like me to sign your child into the program? Whatever it might be that they're selling. It's assumed that the franchisee will just kind of figure it out once they open up. I remember working for an engineering company, a heavily engineering company, and the reality there was that they just thought they didn't even need salespeople because they thought the products would sell themselves. I think in a lot of franchise concepts, it's almost that mindset. The new franchisees will just figure it out, or our brand and the services, they're just going to kind of sell themselves. But most franchisees don't figure it out. Or, they have some success, grand opening, there's a line out the door, but they don't really know why the line's out the door, and they don't really know what's working. So it gets very inconsistent over the long haul. Their performance gets very inconsistent. Most franchisees don't come in with sales training. That's just the reality. They didn't run a business before where they had actually, learned actual selling. So, and in many service-based or retail brands, especially, I think the ability to generate and convert local leads is what drives that unit's success. Operations keep you in business, but sales allow the unit to grow. Sales abilities allow the units to scale. So, what are you witnessing when that skill is missing? What have we seen in some of our partner clients? Well, we see lagging revenue. That's kind of the obvious one. We see low customer acquisition. They don't, and just a total misunderstanding of the acquisition cost and the lifetime value of a client. They have weak local marketing execution. These things go hand in hand, but they're missing opportunities to like be in local community festivals and fairs and those kinds of things that are going to generate buzz and actually generate leads. We see an over-reliance on the brand and brand awareness that hasn't really caught, but the sales don't really catch up with that. And eventually, franchisees start to blame the system that they bought. They go from franchisee in the system to somebody that's kind of complaining about the system. So let me start to break it down a little bit. I like to bring you solutions. When I raise a problem that we've seen, I like to bring you the solutions that we're seeing that are working. So why is this gap so common? Why do franchisees struggle with selling? And honestly, I think there's 4 areas that we've started to uncover and really see. One of them is that they think the brand by itself is going to bring in the customers. Maybe that does for a lot of brands. I won't say a lot because in actuality, something in the neighborhood of 90 to 92 or 93% of all franchises have less than 100 units. So 7 to 10% of the brands can probably pull people in, but the majority of you may be listening your brand's probably not killing it from that standpoint, bringing it in. Franchisees often just believe that people are just going to automatically buy. Leads are just going to come in. People are just going to walk in the door, and they don't have to do much of anything else. Or the phone's just going to ring-a-ling-a-ling off the hook, so to speak. But unless you're candidly a Chick-fil-A, that doesn't happen on day one. And considering, again, as I said, that over 90% of franchisees in the market have under 100 units, if you're hearing this and you're a franchisee and you have a high probability that you look and feel like a franchise, but your brand is not recognized enough to just have people beaten down the doors for what you do. So that's one thing. Second thing is the franchisees misunderstand what selling actually is. When somebody says, "Do you like to sell?" or somebody says, "What are your perceptions of selling?" Most of us go to that used car salesman. I was in copier sales, almost the same. That the person that's just pushing one sale, trying to make it, trying to close it. The reality is that local sales is often about good communications. It's about product belief, and it's about the confidence of the franchisee, the franchise owner, in putting themselves out there properly and being able to properly explain their business, and then honestly ask for the business, and not being afraid or feeling awkward that they've not realizing they've earned the right to ask for the business. And this is a really, really big point. They bring their own sales prejudices into what they are doing, into their selling scenarios, and it holds them back. And I will tell you, this must be overcome. In our programs, we address this as to our own myths about selling, our own idiosyncrasies, our own beliefs about selling, and we teach people what those are. We help them recognize what they are, and we help them get over them. All right, so that's the second one. The third one is they don't know how to create conversations. A lot of people buy franchises and they're great operators, but they're really not great out front. Whether it's B2B, whether it's B2C, many franchisees don't even know how to introduce themselves in a network setting, even in a one-on-one customer, or I should say prospect scenario. They don't know how to build trust, and they don't know how to position the value that they're bringing locally in their community. And again, this is another really big one because I don't think most brands are recognizing this. We found this out after working with one of our partner clients for over a year. We recognized that we needed to get their franchisees actually practicing live during the training. We've actually utilized a technology platform to allow them to practice, even if they're subconscious around their peers. We've created a technology option for them to practice and even self-critique how well they're explaining what they do, how well they introduce themselves. So they just don't understand the difference between networking, which is lead generation, and that not everything is a selling situation. So we talk about a lot of that, and we talk and teach and give them platforms and opportunities to practice talking about themselves, talking about their passion for the business, talking about what their business does in the community. And then the fourth one is that they often get discouraged pretty quickly about sales. Without tools or training, early sales really struggle. And people take that personally. They bring it into themselves. And then many start to retreat into the back room. They don't want to be out front. Let's push that, that 17-year-old kid at the counter, push that one out there to take all the sales hits. And it just impacts, lead generation. It impacts foot traffic. And again, it's just a struggle, and they're retreating and running to the back office. So that's the fourth one. So what am I talking about? What basic skills, what do they really look like? So here's what I'm talking about as far as training for franchisees. It's not a high pressure closing techniques or tactics. It's just foundational local, what I call local sales capabilities, if you will. So let me share what I think that looks like. One is it's to how to confidently explain what they do. It's about asking good questions. It's about being curious. It's about listening to what people are saying. Don't be thinking about the next thing you want to say, but listening to what people are saying, how they're answering your good questions. It's about how to handle what most people in sales call objections, but I really see most objections as really more as questions, and how the mind works to try to formulate a yes answer. So I see questions less as objections and more as opportunities. And people have to understand that if they take that perspective, again, they don't feel rejected. They don't feel like somebody's objecting to buying. It's how the mind works. And as when your franchise owners understand that, they're more apt to be able to answer questions better and really work with someone that they're talking to. Again, I think the mind is trying to make it work. And when people realize that, your franchise partners realize that, they're going to work more closely with and communicate better with their prospects. Another thing is how to follow up without being annoying. Our training talks about planning times in their schedule, in their calendar, to do the follow-up. Be sure it's done regularly. Be sure it's considered something important and not just considered a chore, that has to be done. Another thing is simply how to close a simple sale. In most of franchise units, it's not a big deal. It's not a high ticket thing. And it should be fairly easy to just say, would you like to enroll in this program? Would you like to get Johnny and Sally signed up for classes on Thursday nights? Whatever it might be. But they have to understand it's a simple sale and a simple and easy close. Another thing is simply how to build that referral mindset in the community. Are there other businesses that have the same target market, but they don't compete? They're not offering the same products or services into the marketplace. So again, all around this sales thing and lead generation and community type marketing, this is what your owners have to start understanding and be trained on and embrace. And then the last thing is how to leverage social proof. What to do with good online reviews, getting client customer stories and using them. These are all. It's important for all of this to become trained, but to become a natural part of how the franchise owner is operating in their respective territories. So let's be clear. Again, these are teachable skills. They aren't reserved only for extroverts. They're not reserved for what sometimes people say, oh, he's a natural salesperson or she's a natural saleswoman. No, I think these are absolutely very teachable skills and things that can be trained and built into the fabric of who they are and how they do business. They just need a framework and practice. And that's what our programs have really done well with. So let's talk about why am I talking about this? Why do I feel this matters at the unit level? Well, again, I'm talking about hidden gaps here. They don't show up in your support calls. You've got people, most of your support, if you're a franchisor, most of your support is operational. It's systems oriented. So your people aren't even looking for this. It's not something that's easily found. It's not even something that your franchise partners are going to raise their hand and say, oh, I'm having a problem with lead generation or the selling or, the transaction or the converting. They're not even looking for it themselves. But where it is showing up is going to be in low revenue. It's going to start to creep into your validation. So your franchise development into scaling and the growing of your franchise network is going to be slowed. the franchisees are going to start blaming the marketing department. It happens a lot of times, and when it's really something that's going on in their unit, their local community unit and business. Field teams, again, are typically stretched anyway, and they're not looking for this. They're troubleshooting other kinds of problems when in actuality, the problem is sales related. And new franchisees that actually follow the system pretty well, but don't grow because, again, they're missing this. This is a gap for them, and they're missing these many opportunities as they're talking to people, prospects in the community. So when sales confidence is missing, your performance is impacted. It stalls. And I think here's the kicker, as I said earlier. Every franchisee is the head of sales in their business. Even if they have a salesperson, a lot of times they're going to blame it even on the salesperson, or they're going to defer everything to the salesperson, or they're going to, instead of delegating, they're going to give up the responsibilities of the sales for the business to their salesperson. But the reality is, again, the franchisee is the head of sales of their unit, of their business. So whether they are closing deals themselves or they're trying to manage a salesperson or two, if they can't lead that process, if they don't know how to do it themselves, don't have confidence doing it themselves, they're going to have difficulty managing and leading the sales department. And again, it's all going to end up hurting the growth of their unit, and long-term, if you're the franchisor, hurting your royalty streams. So in our Franchise Foundations of Success, sometimes we call it FFS, in this program, this was specifically designed to address this and 5 other gaps that we're seeing. This is one of the first things that we address, is this confidence level of talking about the business, being the spokesperson, understanding how to communicate, leveraging and teaching and leveraging and practicing better communication skills. It's that critical. And in the FFS program, we talk about this typically first. We don't teach traditional selling skills. This is not a typical sales course. This is a module out of 6. We approach this in a very practical communication and confidence building for your business owners, for your franchise owners, how to speak with clarity, how to coach their teams to improve overall conversations and the team's conversations with customers, how to recognize when to adjust some of the messaging based on who they're specifically speaking to, how to sell value and experience, not just the raw service or the product. Franchisees who go through our sales module as part of the FFS, they don't just make more money, they become more confident. They learn better communication skills, which rolls out to their better leadership skills, which rolls out to the teams taking care of customers better, which increases revenue streams. They get better at hiring, they get better at managing, they get better at leading, they get better at communicating. And again, that just changes the whole trajectory of that unit. Because when the person at the top of the unit, the franchise owner, knows how to sell, everyone gets better, or at least when they know how to sell the way we teach it in the Foundations of Success. So thanks for joining me today here at Franchise Pitfalls and Profits. If you're seeing inconsistent revenues across your system, if you have some franchisees doing everything right but growing in revenue, odds are this is the gap you should start exploring. This is the place you should start asking questions. You don't have to build a sales team overnight, but helping franchisees get a foundation in local sales skills can unlock really significant growth potential for them and for you as a franchisor. If you want to learn more about how we do this, how we coach this, how we train this inside the Franchise Foundations of Success program, just head to our website, franchisebuildingexpert.com. I put it up a couple of minutes ago, how you could go directly in and schedule time with us, or you can go on franchisebuildingexpert.com, contact me section, and just say FFS or Franchise Foundations of Success program, and we will reach out to you and talk more about it with you and see if this is really something that would change the overall direction of your franchise. All right, before I close, I always like to share from my heart what's behind everything that I do. Franchising isn't just about systems and sales. I just said this about an hour ago to someone I was talking to. It's about people stepping into ownership, building businesses that affect their families, their communities, and their futures. There's a person and a family and a community on every other side of that franchise agreement that's signed. And that's what matters. That's what matters to us here at FBE. My work and our company's work and our company's focus is rooted in a very simple belief, which is if we equip people with the right platforms and foundations, leadership, sales, financing, good decision making, we don't just build stronger businesses, we build legacies. And mine is driven by my faith. In the book of Acts in the Bible, it talks about now when David had served God's purpose in his generation, he fell asleep or he passed away. That's my purpose too. It's to serve well in my generation. It's to have a generational impact, a multi-generational impact, and it's to create impact and legacy for my grandchildren and my grandchildren's grandchildren. And so all of it giving glory to God, the provider of all that we have. That's why I do what I do. That's why we do it the way we do it. Again, thanks for being here with me.